Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second session of our supply chain in industrial sectors. So what are we going to talk about? Technology serving sustainable mobility. It is now 3 or 4 editions that we have been talking about this topic. There cannot be just one technology serving this objective. Not only electrical vehicles or electrification can solve this problem, and so we try to look for other solutions as a territory here in Italy, as a continent, Europe, but also worldwide. So now we know that in the different geographies, most countries really shifted towards electrification. For example, China has become the most relevant player in terms of electric vehicles and BEVs, and battery packs are also their strong point. What about Europe? Let me ask for the volume to be a little bit lower. What has happened to Europe? Well, now that this industrial sector is undergoing some difficulties, well, we are looking for new regulations and we're also looking for other energy sources. So around this session that is made up by 3 round tables, we will try and look into different solutions, companies manufacturing components, spare parts, engines, and are part of the supply chain. The automotive sector is becoming broader and broader, and more technological infrastructure is required so as to serve the sector itself. And nobody probably would have ever imagined this huge transformation. So during the round tables, we will try and understand the viewpoint and remarks coming from the different speakers who will come to the stage. Now, it's not just a question of CO2 emission reductions. This, of course, has been a bottleneck, but there are other gases that contribute to human health. It's a question of energy. And this is why we have a consultant, a strategic consultant in energy transition that has been invited here today. We are really seeing a lot of constraints in Italy and Europe in terms of manufacturing as far as energy transition. And there is also an aspect that of fiscal laws and taxation. And we will also devote a specific session on that. So we should be as neutral as possible, as technology neutral in our approach. Our festival has been organized around traditional legacy vehicles for human mobility. But when talking about mobility, of course, it extends to other aspects. So airplanes, trucks, and also drones, by the way, that have been added to the world of transportation and mobility. So new topics, nuclear power, for example, for the generation of energy or other technology, hydrogen with its limits, because in order to generate sustainable hydrogen, very expensive technology is required, biofuels. So there are different technologies available. And let me also add that technological innovation is really fast-paced. Observing startups and the technology that they offer and innovate in terms of mobility is really very, very rapid and extremely interesting, then we'll also need to understand how interesting it will be to invest on these startups. Now, in the coming 2 years, just 2 hours, sorry, we will hear from different players coming from different experiences. Taxation, powertrain technology, renewables, electrification. And we will start by inviting 3 different speakers who, with their keynote, will set the landscape, and we will invite all the speakers to respect timing. So please do respect the allocated time. So the keynotes will last from 10 to 15 minutes, and the round tables will be 2 20 minutes and 1 30 minutes. So one on energy alternatives will last longer. So let's open to the second session, and let me introduce Marco Giannini, CEO of Fast Charge Engineering. Congrats, welcome. And we thought of opening this second session for you to introduce with your pitch FCs. Well, good afternoon. Let me start by focusing on different challenges and changes in the challenges. The paradigm has changed. Some years ago, electricity was considered the solution, and we have seen that this will not be the solution. So we were born as an electrification company, especially in FCE, namely battery packs. And in order to manufacture them, it is necessary to win high performance, high power challenges. And we develop an enabler of electrification, and the most important one is hydrogen. So around 2022, electricity was the answer, but the operators in the field knew that it was going to be a bubble, and we understood that 2030 was too close in terms of being the deadline, and the world of electric cars is changing. But it hasn't been phased out. It will occupy an important space. We have seen that hybrid vehicles have grown. This is what will be more and more widespread in the future, because there are numerous challenges to be overcome. It's not just the regulations that have to be complied with, but we have to decide for a more wide-ranging technology field, and enterprises have to adapt and grow and win new challenges. So we have to manufacture smaller battery packs, storage facilities with hydrogen cells, or a hybrid engine with both an ICE and another engine means more power and more heat, more thermal power. So the more peak, the more thermal runaway. The smaller the battery pack, the more thermal heat. So temperature will need to be managed, and it becomes something that is necessary because of performances. If the battery heats up, we have to reduce power. It is also necessary in terms of safety, because if the battery heats up, we run the risk of a fire, and we want to avoid a fire. And then again, if the battery heats up, its life is shorter. So instead of becoming useful, it will be fruitless. So we have studied a technology that allows us to have smaller batteries, allowing us to have the same life of the battery and ability to store the thermal heat. It is a scalable technology. It is already available on the market with smaller packs offering the same performance of the larger sized one. Now, thermal management is not only an option, it becomes an enabler in all conditions. This is a test on the right-hand side, so on your left-hand side, batteries may burn and there may be a fire. As you can see on your left-hand side, this is a thermal runaway. In this case, there is no cooling system, and we have propagation. The cell is pierced with a nail, and so you have propagation. With a direct liquid cooling that we have patented, this will never occur. So not only do we prevent fire because temperatures are maintained in the right range, in case of an accident, we can manage this aspect. So it's not a cooling system, but a way in which we can manage the heat. So one technology, multiple applications. We have really seen that managing heat is something that is needed and enables electrical applications. We have to manage the thermal part, and we can also manage this one, even if it's not possible to mention it that often. We can really manage the problem even when the problem occurs, because we can prevent it, but we will never be able to prevent this to happen. So who are we? We have a plant, so it's not a dream, it's not a prototype. We are active in defense, in cargo, we're working in the naval sector, in drones, and also for the aeronautic sector. We are making these battery packs available also for airplanes, where weight is absolutely key in managing the right balances. And that allows me to close the presentation. Thank you. Very well, thank you. You were great in presenting your part. Let me give the floor to Gianluca Di Loreto from Bain & Company. Welcome, Gianluca. Last year, the scenario you presented was very interesting. So you're quite lucky of understanding the market from the standpoint of those working on a global level, together with the suppliers, the manufacturers, regulators. And so your standpoint, your viewpoint is extremely around 360 degrees. So your way of looking into this sector has been really great in terms of understanding how to work together with the competitors, how to stop them. And so I have two questions for you. What does this impact in terms of the Italian and European supply chain? And how can we design an industrial policy by maintaining decarbonization, technology neutral approaches, and competitiveness? So plenty of food for thought. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for the introduction, Marco. You really represented the great snapshot of what happened in the last 10 years. In 15 minutes, I will give you some figures. You will see plenty of numbers and I will shed some light on the automotive and truck sector, truck manufacturing sector, explain the complexities, and give you three possible ways of understanding these figures, because we are very competitive on saying this is the right direction to go. No, this is the wrong direction to go. So let's try and clarify a little bit the landscape. So Marco expected to see by 2020 the electric cars to be what was going to occur. So amongst the two fighting parties, suddenly there is the hockey stick arriving. Electric cars make Ursula von der Leyen happy. This is what happened, the market penetration in the last 3 years. These are the so-called front runners of France, Germany, and UK. The common denominator here is a pretty flat trend, pushed by the gray trends at the end of the year so as to register the electric cars, so as to meet the expected numbers. So these are the front runners, these three. Don't ask me where Norway lies, because it's not the thermal runaway. They have 92%. 92%, so I did not add Norway. So Norway is an important example, but it doesn't count for our way of analyzing the market. So we are faring last with Italy and Spain. So a peak last November, then drops again in January. These are the figures, so you can read the figures as you wish. They're growing or they're still low. I'm not interested in your interpretation, but this is what the numbers tell us about full electric. Then we can speak of mild, hybrid, etc. Then China. China, it is the cradle of electric vehicles. Maybe. Same graph, in green full electric, in red plug-in, and the ICEs in black till last November, last year, I mean. These figures were the official figures that were made public. How can we understand these figures? I can tell you that in China, by last year, we had 1/3 of BEVs. But this is not what we see from the headlines on the newspapers. What we are informed about is that more than 52% are NEV. So they add BEVs with hybrid cars, and we get NEVs. They love acronyms. So in the end, last year in China, 2 cars out of 3 still have an ICE. So all of these figures are technically correct, but it depends on which side you're on. If you are on the electric side, you say, well, more than 50% are on one side. If you are on the other side, you say more than 50% of cars are ICE cars. What happened last January? No more tax reliefs, no more subsidies, and there is a drop. More black lines. 1/4 BEV, 40% NEV, and 3 out of 4 ICEs in China, the cradle of electric vehicles. So 3 out of 4. So we were all wrong in our forecast. You can see us, even Bain was wrong, because the regulations changed, because in the end it's the consumer who decides. So these are the estimates by 2030. which came out in 2023. Look at the forecast in 2025. You can imagine that in 2026 they will be lower. So what we have seen is that up with consumers, we have all technologies together available on the market. This is what the consumer has decided. So in the car fleets, trucks, light and heavy weight trucks, vehicles and cars, except for buses, where it is compulsory to have electric buses. It is set as a mandatory expectation for municipalities. And look at the other situation amongst light vehicles and trucks. This is a positive aspect for the aftermarket, and they are doing very well, because if cars become older and older, they exit the guarantee coverage, and the after-sales market profits from that. Not the others, though. So in this backdrop, electrification is just one of the challenges. Then there is the stagnation of global volumes. In the next 10 to 15 years, the total number of vehicles that will be sold globally will remain the same. So the automotive sector will not grow. So if any OEM or brand will want to grow, they will need to steal their market shares from another brand. And how can you conquer market share? With prices. And so the first two cause the third consequence. Margins are dropping, and so they knock on the components manufacturers. And, the brand asks the final consumer to pay a little bit more, but the component maker cannot turn to anybody else to increase their margins. And then we also have regulations. That's top down. You cannot just say, do this, buy this, and do it in this way. It's not easy for an entrepreneur to follow these guidelines. Has any part of these sectors called the consumer or the manufacturer? No, nobody has understood what type of requirement was presented by the consumers. So we had fun, and this is just an euphemism. We have looked for around 70,000 respondents. We had to look for real respondents, because we also had 70,000 chatbots replying to the survey, so as to have the real sample, and the sample was of 12,351 respondents. So we've asked them, what do you really want? So from the various touch points, so online sales, supermarkets selling cars. So there is a wide variety of possibilities. And I saw that when the world wants to buy a car, the 80% of customers look up the website, to go online, and the other remaining part looks for the car on the magazines. Another part goes offline to the showroom, and then once I've been to the showroom, I check online and see whether the right pricing was given, or I go to a third showroom. And so we have omni-channels. One channel is no longer enough. So at every touch point shows that 1/5 will either exit or buy. After 4 interaction, 80% has closed the business or else lost. And this means speed. Are cars sold online? No. You sell cars with the online channel, and then the sale is finalized offline. In 2020, online was 45% in Europe. Now it's up to 60%, and it has reached its peak level. More and more people go to the showroom to buy a car. But then we have Tesla, which sells directly. And here we are told that 90% of consumers buys offline. And this is no surprise. But the surprise is that 60% says that they continue and want to continue to buy offline. When they're spending 40,000 euros, they don't want to buy the car with a chatbot, and they have nobody to claim the fact that they have not received the car and that the car will work. No, in the past, only it was claimed that customers were going to buy online. Only Tesla sells online. So what is online useful for? Just to make the whole pathway shorter. On the left, you can see the different phases of buying a car. Online is the red part, but little by little it decreases. The more you spend, 25 to 30,000 euro, the more I want to touch and feel what I'm going to buy, luckily. Let me skip this for time constraints. And so we have two different types of customers. The American baby boomer, who doesn't want to buy an electric vehicle. And the fact that they say yes, 25%, doesn't mean that they will buy one, because you have to divide that share by 8. You want an electric car? Yes, maybe tomorrow, not today. What about millennials in China? 70% say yes. But these averages are the result of many different aspects, because there is no average customer. What are the main doubts expressed by customers? Range, price, and recharging time. We are filling the territory with energy rechargers and stations, but most customers say that they charge at home. So if I have a flat, I cannot have an electric car. If I have a small villa or an independent house, I do not. I can charge at home.
Let's travel back to Italy now. What is going on in our country? In Italy, this is the share, the quota of pure EV in the first quarter of 2026. It went up from 6.2 to 7%. Someone would say plus 20%. The other side would say plus 2 percentage point. And some others would say that the EV percentage is standing still at 7.8%. All three are right, but they are interpreting it from different points of view. These are different types of car. We have the small ones, 7%, and medium and bigger cars, 13%. So EVs went up thanks to the renting business, because many firms rent EVs. Now everybody is celebrating, and finally we have the small city electric car. Let's take a look at the 2025. Total of the market, electric shares and plug-in, more or less the same between northern, southern and central Italy. Then private channels, private customers, the ones who pay for their own cars, and more or less the same. Plug-in in the majority of cases, because these people charge their car at home. December 2025. Let's now take a look at first quarter 2026 after 3 months. These are the figures of the total market. Southern Italy, 15% of electric cars penetration. Take a look at the private customers, 19%. In Naples, we have 20%. 1 car out of 5 is an electric vehicle. So city electric car is the best choice for people in Southern Italy. It looks like it's like that. Let's now analyze numbers. What are the provinces that in the first quarter registered the 15% of pure electric cars? The ones in green. Don't take a look at northern Italy because those are all rented cars. Maybe this is a coincidence. Maybe all these cars were bought in southern Italy. Let's remove, for example, the leap motor. Every percentage drops down to below 15%. Why is that so? Because a car like the 03, which is about 5,000 euros, was sold at the cost of a bike, 4,900 euros, partially because to the leap motor and partially thanks to taxes, due to taxes. So there was a there was a T03 penetration, a crazy one. I don't know how they will charge them, but I don't know if this is sustainable. And I don't know if this is sustainable. This is the last point I would like to make. These are Italian regions. On the vertical axis, we have the quota of BEVs and PHEVs, and in the horizontal axis, we have the GDP per capita. The Before someone said that price is one of the leading factors in the purchase of a car. Let's take a look at the green regions, the ones in the north and in the center, and then the red regions are the ones in the south. There is a direct correlation between these things. It means that this is does it mean that this is a cause and effect relationship? Not necessarily. English people would say correlation doesn't mean causation, but the opposite is not true neither. Italian people are strange people, but also Norwegian people are strange somehow. Take a look at the size of the market. We have pioneers, advanced, and early stage. We have 80% data here. So maybe a connection between the cost of cars and the size and the business affordability, and the affordability is present. Why is that so? Because inflation rised in the past few years. It was 100 in 2013, but this is what happened in the price list of cars, and this is what happened to the family incomes. If we remove inflation and we have the net figure, car is now coming back to be good for only a few people, privileged people. Volkswagen would say the car of everyone, but actually it's not like that. Too many trademarks, too many models. This is not the way, and now we need to rethink about the customer experience because this will be crucial when brands count less. And the third thing will be acquiring, because if you're small, you can be fast, but you will never be successful. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you, Mr. Di Loreto from Bain and Company. You're always quick. You always shed light on so many things. You summed it up perfectly, and you have mentioned things we will go through in the different roundtables. Now, let's take a look at a different scenario. In this case, we talk about goods. We talk about transportation, goods, transportation. So this is another segment in mobility. We are going to meet now a great player regarding goods transportation, which is DHL, and they will be talking about more complex systems in which planes, ships move around, the last mile also, so drones, and a new segment was added to the transportation sector. All these segments have different characteristics. No technology on a standalone basis can be selected to support the whole transport system, the whole transport sector. So how can a global operator, a global player, build an energy transition strategy in order to make every technology coexist so as to support their industry? What is a great player like DHL asking technology providers? I would like to welcome Mr. Sacchi, Global Solution Manager at DHL. Good evening, everyone. Talking about electrification, DHL has a double function. On one hand, we are users of electrifications, and on the other hand, we need to provide our customers with solutions. These customers are facing these challenges, the challenge of electrification. Let's Let's state, first of all, that DHL is known by the majority of people for goods transportation, packs delivery, but actually we are the first group worldwide when it comes to e-commerce. We are very distinguished actor together with the German post system. We work in the supply chain, we work in plants. We also collaborate with industrial projects in order to move the new plants, in order to, sorry, to serve the new plants manufacturing battery packs. This being said, what is the DHL doing? DHL has stated that by 2030, they wanted to reduce by 29 million 40 million metric tons the impact of emissions in everything we transport. So no matter what volumes are, no matter what they are doing, how they are growing, we need to decrease the number of the amount of CO2 emissions. What happens here? When we made these decisions, did we have technologies? Did we have know-how? No, we didn't. But actually, but yet we needed to find a technology to reach these goals. And now we are operating in different sectors across different industries. So, for example, sustainable fuels for planes. We invested more than 7 billion euros to acquire biofuels for planes. In other words, in 2022, it is as if we bought 3 years of biofuels manufacturing. So I'm talking about a very big investment. Then electrifying the last mile fleet. This topic will be studied more narrowly later on. And then the decarbonization of all the DHL assets. Our new warehouses, our new operations are net zero, are zero emission operations. This is crucially important. And then we want to provide our customers with these sustainable products, so as to support the third pillar of emissions, the so famous scope 3. Actually, for us, is scope 1 and scope 2. So the whole logistic chain is influenced. Just to provide you with some figures, in 2024, the 41.4% of DHL fleet for world deliveries was already an electrified fleet. Actually, currently we have 39,000 electric cars and trucks, and the objective is to rise by 20%. By 2035, all the deliveries made by DHL at a global scale must be net zero. 20,300 e-bikes used in the post-delivery, in the packs delivery. In Milan, you would see so many of these bikes going around the city. This being said, what does this represent for us? What is our experience at DHL? I would like to recall that DHL was the first company that manufactured commercial EVs when no OEM had electric vehicles. The scooter, the very famous scooter by DHL, was a unique product because no one would manufacture at that time an electric vehicle for post-delivery. How is this going for us? Well, we have quite a different vision, quite a different view from the rest of the players. Electrification is growing. This is clear to everybody. I don't know if it will be a complete growth and development. Maybe different technologies will coexist in these electrification development, but what we are witnessing is a very important data. In fact, by 2030, the 60% of total global car sales will be electrified. Will have to be electrified somehow. I don't know how. It may be an hybrid engine or it may be a BEV. At DHL, we can only buy electric vehicles for our company fleet. So we are electrified as a company. Our electrification is a must. What is happening in Europe? Our view is optimistic. By 2030, the 67% of vehicles will be electric vehicles. But there is a further problem that is related to this first thing. The famous charging stations. We lack 3.5 million in order to be in line with the potential growth, with the expected growth of EVs. Actually, we should put 8,000 charging stations per week in order to have the whole availability we need to respond to those volumes we are expecting in the future. What is happening here? First of all, we need to remember that electrification is not only about vehicles, cars and trucks. Electrification has to do with something else as well. It is a new ecosystem, not only a new powertrain, it is a new ecosystem. And this new ecosystem involves all sectors, all different sectors that were not included in the automotive supply chain. For example, the storage systems are growing with double digits. More than double digits are actually. We are talking about containers for energy, and each of them has 46 tons of capacity. For example, the charging stations we need to count on, the gigafactories are being built around Europe. What is a gigafactory? Nobody would know that 20 years ago. A gigafactory produces cells and batteries. In Spain, they are building 5. In Germany, 2. In Poland, 4. In Hungary, 3. In Italy, what happens here? 1. Just 1. We only have 1 gigafactory. Maybe 1. Actually, it is already running, so we have 1, yes. What does it mean to be part of a large ecosystem? It means that the rules of the game are not the rules of the internal combustion engine. The rules of the game of the new ecosystem are different. We needed to change mentality. We need to change our mindset and the way we approach reality. On top of everything, we are talking about a material that is not that regulated. The only regulations we know regarding batteries are in international transport. If we take a look around and you ask how to stock batteries, there is no law, there is no regulation. There are only some guidelines, and maybe the firefighters office will provide you with some recommendations. There is no law, there is no standard regarding battery packs. This is the new world of electrification that is evolving and must evolve at a legislative level, at a legal level. The only countries that have regulated the management of batteries are Holland, Netherlands, Belgium, and China. No other country, okay? And this is important. Let's take a look at the performance of the supply chain, because managing batteries is not like managing a spare part, just another spare part. It is a wholly different story, and it must be faced with awareness. Because if you sell a 400,000 euro car in China and battery has a flaw, well, that battery will never arrive to China in 24 hours. It will never be like that, because some legislation will prevent that from happening. Engineering batteries for an electric car will not be the task of engineers. It will be done by technicians, by after sales, and potentially by logistic partners, because designing batteries according to the rules of shipping helps everybody prevent problems after that. Volkswagen did so. In fact, the new battery packs of Volkswagen were created bearing in mind logistics, and in fact, they are much easier to be transported. If we take a look at the retail, we realize that it is changing. In fact, we are in front of a new circle system. There is no longer waste. Spare parts are no longer thrown away. In fact, they are recycled now, and this is a further important element. If I take a look at the new range of products, the most common problem is the battery pack. Since the time the car is manufactured to the time the battery has to be sold, until the time it has to be managed in the after-sales period. What do I do with this battery? Can I use it in a BES? Can I recycle it to extract material out of it? Well, This is the future. Do you know the battery passport being created by Europe right now? Well, we are talking about the same thing. This way you can track down the whole life cycle of that battery. This means that the entire supply chain is stretched because it is made, the supply chain is made of the materials of the batteries. Here the thing is the cell, the way it is engineered, where the battery pack is engineered. Before, these elements were not there, and now they must be considered and held into account. What is DHL doing? DHL is a user of electrification, and for 20 years now, this company has become familiar with the challenges and the most recurring problems in this world. We are now providing solutions for the battery management at a global level. I'm not going to mention the names of the brands, but there are other companies involved in this challenge. These are data from 2024 at DHL, Scope 1 and Scope 3. Scope 1 is our data and Scope 3 is third parties. 93,400 vehicles, of which 39,000 were already electric in 2024. 31,000 31 and 80, sorry, 31,000 light vehicles. In 2024, we were at 41.4% of electrification. We must get to 66% in 2030, and we will do that. But what happens with heavy duties? I mean, 106,000 heavy-duty vehicles in 2024. How many of them with sustainable fuels? 6.6, a too low figure. What is the problem? In this case, we talk about sustainable fuel and hybrid cars and trucks and not about electric trucks. The problem is that we have about 39,000 electric vehicles, light vehicles around, traveling around, 40,000 charging stations and 1,500 was the other figure. The problem with big players across the chain is that a heavy-duty vehicle, in order to be charged, it occupies the room of all those light vehicles. And this means that in order to achieve the 20% more of electrification of heavy-duty vehicles, I must increase the availability of energy at a 250% pace. This is a challenge for everybody. Is this viable today? Is this sustainable today? Maybe not. It isn't so, but we needed to work on that. Let's take, for instance, a deposit. A warehouse. If I have this number of electric vehicles from 5 in the afternoon to 8 in the afternoon, I do not have enough energy to charge them up. This gives us a clear idea of the challenges we are facing at DHL in order to be net zero, in order to avoid any emission of CO2. These are crucial and paramount challenges, and since they are big challenges, we want to be fully operative. We work with a circular change. If you have an electric car, your battery will be recycled, will never be thrown away, because the value of the battery, the value of the material inside the battery is too high, is too big. So DHL is working on materials. We started to support customers in the management of materials needed to manufacture batteries. Then we work on cells productions. We stock these batteries and cells. This is what we manage in electric vehicles. For example, Formula E is managed by DHL around the world. We have a great experience in that, and we have been one of the main partners in the Formula E championship. So all the services built around this new ecosystem is being developed by us. Our team has been following this very, very narrowly, from very close, building new opportunities, creating excellent results. At least we are enormously satisfied. On top of that, you have to add all the other services, logistic consultancy, supply chain consultancy, different scenario. We depict scenarios every time. And this is important because if we need to design an electric car, you also need to figure out all the possible scenarios from a logistic point of view. A constructor decided that in order to make the battery as efficient as possible, the weight had to be 790 kilos. Try to transport 790 kilos. This means collaborating, working together to achieve the best solution, because at the end of the day, customers are the ones who pay for their requests. Thank you for your attention. I hope my speech enlightened you the same way we are enlightened by our challenges ahead of us. Thank you. Let's now move to the third keynote speech. The next panel is about managing taxes. We wanted to understand how taxes impact on logistics, on energy, not only technologies and so on, but the way taxes impact on the profitability of companies and on their business models. In order to debate on this, I would like to welcome Maria Concetta Tribuzio, director at the Custom Agency, and Giuseppe Gargano. Together, you will give this joint speech. Giuseppe Gargano is in charge of the anti-fraud office at the Custom Office. Thank you. After the companies, it is our time. We are the Custom Office, and our authority devotes to the control and the regulation of the energy sector. And also, we collect taxes. In a short time, I will give the floor to Mr. Gargano. He will be telling you about the main profiles of taxes, tax system when it comes to energy and energy transition. I am a manager at the Custom Office, and I would like to spread this message. For sure, tax-related things are a leverage for the market and for the economy, but this is not the only leverage the state has, any country has. First of all, the digitalization is a further leverage. The Custom Office has a high degree of digitalization as a tax agency. We have been investing for years and years in IT. This is a crucial opportunity for every company. If the entrepreneurial world starts to use these tools offered by the Custom Office, it cannot but obtain benefits. The most telling example is the sector of subsidies in transportation sector. Being more digital means having a quicker subsidy. We also have a very important leverage when we dialogue with public authority, and it is compliance. The more the economic stakeholder, the firmer, the fairer, the more fair, and the more reliable the economic stakeholder is, the more benefits they will get from public authorities and from the market. For example, what was introduced by the legislative decree of 2025, the SOAC. It is an accredited subject, which according to public authority, it is entitled to have facilitation, subsidies. In this context, these tools are useful, like the synergy between the private and the public sector. They must be an engine, a driving force for our economy and for the market. So I've been short enough, and I will now hand it out to Mr. Gargano. He will be telling you about tax profiles, fiscal profiles.
Good afternoon. I am Giuseppe Gargano, and I work for the Customs Office, and I work on anti-fraud policies. Why is our presence here at the Motor Valley Fest required. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting us because as a customs office, we deal with indirect taxation on energy products. An indirect taxation on the generation and consumption of different types of energy products. And today we're here to understand how much taxes impact energy products. We want to understand also from you, you represent enterprises, and also from the research world. We want to understand whether the tax authority is going in the right direction in terms of taxing energy products. There is a direct and an indirect taxation on energy products, and they are set forth by Article 21 of the 504 law decree passed in 1995. So which products are taxed with excises, so indirect taxation on products. Petrol with lead, petrol, kerosene, gas or gasoline, fuel, and liquefied petrol, natural gas, lignite, coke, and coal. These are the taxed products. How much does taxation impact these products and the final prices when they're sold on the market to consumers? So oil, you see that there is a lot that comes from excises and then VAT. That builds up in terms of taxation. If we buy a liter of diesel or oil, more than 60% of this amount has taxes levied upon them. So we have the price of the raw material cost, the gross margin of those selling the product, plus the excises that we require as customs office, and then everything is multiplied by 22%, namely VAT. You have read on the news and newspapers and heard on the news that our government has been debating the possibility of allowing enterprises and final consumers to have lower prices, and they are cutting excises on the fuels so as to have a moderated final price. And it's a great sacrifice that we are called to, so as to support the consumers. Now, 1,000 liters of oil has 622 euros, notwithstanding the cut in excises. Per every liter of oil, we have an excise that has to be paid, which is 0.65 cents. Now diesel. Again, cuts on the excises on diesel. It would be 0.67 on diesel, and now it has been postponed. It was 47 cents, but 2 days ago it was increased to 57 cents instead of 0.67, which is the full share, tax share. liquefied gas, again a cut 0.24 cents per kilogram. Natural gas, the share is 0.03 per cubic meter. Now it has dropped to 0. This means that on natural gas, we only pay VAT on the final cost. Why am I sharing these examples with you? Because, well, we should all wonder, the public authority, regulators, and also private customers and citizens, whether it is going to allow us to save if we invest on new ways of driving cars and powering cars. So in mobility on vehicles, there is a zero excise. But now, electric power. Something very important has been stated earlier. If we charged EVs at home, what would the excise be? 0.027 cents per kilowatt hour. So 2 cents of an euro per kilowatt. And companies would have 0.017 for those companies with a higher consumption higher than 1,200,000 kilowatt. So as you can see, the impact of excises is lower for natural gas if compared to the more used fuels, so oil and diesel. Excises are lower for electric power, and in the list we saw earlier, we do not find those products that may be used for mobility, like hydrogen, for example. Hydrogen was not included in the first slide with the list that I shared with you. So as customer offices, and we levy taxes on energy products, well, we have wondered with my colleagues, many of whom are technicians, engineers, experts helping us out in our daily activity, and they support us constantly, especially in the technical field. And in reality, we have really studied this aspect for many manufacturers, especially here in the province of Modena. And we've seen that the present taxation as far as hydrogen is concerned, which may be used as a drive for motors, for engines, could be equal to 0 because it is like using natural gas. And this is it. I have concluded my speech, and I hope I have shed light on these aspects. Very well. Thank you very much to both of you from the Customs Office from Emilia Quattro. And now let's open the first round table. New mobility is the topic we are going to talk about, and so we will give the floor to OEMs of powertrain manufacturers. And so the question I will ask to all three is the technology they are leveraging right now. So Andrea Dutto, head of projects of PT Iveco Group, Francesco Perino, head of technical department Pagani SPA. Welcome, and Stefano Fioranti, Global Senior Manager of Powertrain Innovation of company CNH. Welcome. Now, let's start from the Iveco Group data. You will only have 5 minutes to reply. So, in a scenario of technology neutral approach, what is your main strategic priority? How are you working out the competition, for example, coming from the Far East, especially in heavy duty vehicles? We've seen that in Loreto's presentation. And what are the structural limits that slow down the adoption of alternative technologies in your segment? Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was sitting on this same tool last year, and I gave you an institutional reply. Iveco Group is a multi-energy company. I am responsible of innovation, and we want to accelerate on innovation. So I would like to say that after a year we are more knowledgeable, but instead, no, we do not have more knowledge on that. We continue, nonetheless, to invest in all potential technologies. We're studying. We continue to manufacture diesel engines. Our customers buy it more for SUVs. A new topic is hybrid vehicles, also for heavy-duty trucks. And renewable fuels are also something we're investing on. And here, the EU is opening up. Now, from our point of view, the main idea is to try and understand what the customer wants, because we want to meet their requirements. We have more than 20,000 connected heavy-duty trucks. And by studying these vehicles, I identify three main potential clusters of customers. On the one hand, the private owner of a truck, and they drive long stretches, and they are not interested in electric vehicles. It would be a hassle for them. Then there are large fleets like DHL and Amazon, and that have hub-to-hub stretches. They want to recharge in their own hub, and that's where the electric vehicle would come handy. Then there are other customers that cover 500 kilometers per day. They have different geographies around the world that they need to cover. And to these customers, they may be interested in a range extender hybrid vehicle so as to achieve their mission and have a TCO advantage. But we want to be disruptive. We want to go to final customers in these clusters. Is this technology interesting for you? How would you improve it? And this is something that we consider important because, you know, the lawmakers in Europe set forth different legislations, and customers don't follow that offered vehicle. And so, because of the laws, and because we do not have the enablers to follow the law, let me give you an example, by the way. We have a very big research center in Switzerland, and I also study the Swiss market, and they are investing a lot on renewable fuels. And so you can compensate part of the sanctions by using renewable fuels. And how did they get there? How can we generate such a fuel? In the next 3 years, they wanted to set up big solar parks in Oman and generate the energy that they will use in Switzerland. And they set forth tax reliefs, etc., so as to switch from diesel to renewable fuels. So it's a holistic model. So not only did they set forth the regulation, and then they will design a strategy until the technology is available, so that we can close and have the full circle. So Switzerland is a small country, but nonetheless, they have been able to achieve an important part of the picture. And this is what we're lacking in Europe and in Italy. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Fiorati. You manufacture vehicles both for the building sector and the farming sector. What is your strategy? Do you focus more on farming vehicles? How much are you investing in R&D? Are you developing technologies? Because we've seen this, that there are many self-drive vehicles, autonomous drive vehicles, which is far more possible to use in farmlands or in building yards rather than in the roads of the cities. And then I also have a second question. Realistically speaking, how soon will we see the world of agriculture shifting to this type of vehicles, of driverless tractors, for example? Now, thank you for these questions. Let me speak of the off-road, on-road truck, and thank you, DHL. We have devoted our attention to off-road. We have vehicles that are not for urban mobility or to cover the last mile. We have vehicles that are functional, namely. And so this is why it is important for us to understand the main requirements of the final customer and of the ecosystem that revolves around the end customer. So we have numerous products, but we have tractors for vineyards and orchards. I believe you've seen them. 2 open field machines for corn growing, for wheat growing, and also thrashers and tilling machines. And there is no single solution for all of these machines. But what we want to do is to understand in partnership with the customers what their needs are. So we've spoken of CO2 emissions, pollutants, etc., and we keep this into the scenario of our strategy. So they want to improve the yield of the soil and productivity. How many hectares can I cover in an hour? A farmer has now become a businessman, and so they have to study all of these metrics, and we have to meet their requirements, even here. And this is why, and let me rapidly go through all the points up to the strategy. And we've developed this biofuel, biomethane. We are pioneers with the first biomethane-driven tractor, which is going to be self-produced, biomethane, I mean. And so next to these new fuels, we have also developed our first electric machines, so low power, so machines that will be used only by a niche of the market, even if it is growing. So hybridization now, we are no longer talking of electric vehicles, but of electrified vehicles, just to be in line with what has been said earlier. Electrified vehicles, that it's not only the powertrain that is going to be electrified, but we electrify the operations and functions of the machine. If we replace a hydraulic vehicle with an electrical one, we can control it more. We have more data, and we can control, for example, mechatronics. If I have an electric tractor, I have more data, and the data, thanks to AI, can be leveraged in different ways. This morning, the question was, we have AI, how do we use it? We know how to implement it. And in fact, we are going to continue along this way so as to meeting the requirements of the customer. What is the customer's requirement? So automation, mechatronics, AI, automation. Electrification is an enabler. From the point of view of agriculture, from farmers, we're looking at many different things, and not only emissions, but also the functions offered by the machine. And this is what will take us to autonomous machines. When will they be really used? We've seen them in many science fiction movies. And little by little, we'll get there. At the moment, we have the driver on board. Which country, by the way, is more interested in this type of development, technological development? Well, the US is highly interested in this because of the wide-ranging extensions of their farming surfaces. But many other countries are also requiring information, and they want the operator to have less cognitive load and be able to allow them to focus on productivity and yields. Well, thank you very much. And let's go back to the world of tailor-made excellence products, legacy products. So, Pagani. So, the world pushes electrification. What about managing a company like yours? What is your positioning? We've been talking about all of these topics at the Motor Valley. Now, electrification requires, a shift in technology. Are you going to sort of betray and abandon your brand DNA because you have a high-end positioning, a luxury product? Will you alienate your final customers? And second question, are you developing other technologies, aerodynamics, for example, that may be introduced within your engineering design? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, what particularly vivid topic, very vibrant discussions are revolving around it. It's not only touching us. We are a small company. We manufacture around 60, 70 vehicles per year, highly customized. And we try and meet the needs and dreams of the customers. So within this framework, we highlight and boost emotions, because a sports car is not, a vehicle that responds to your first needs. If you buy it, you appreciate its looks, its experience, the enjoyment that you will experience, something that a vehicle that you will be able to drive not that often throughout the year. And this is something that we see also when monitoring the vehicles, which are all tracked. Now, from the regulatory point of view, we should also be able to assess the impact of certain niches or sectors. So not only Pagani, but all of the Motor Valley territory. We are here. And there are many brands on this territory. If we look at the GDP, we see that we are a driving sector, a strategic sector, best performers. So I wonder whether some taxation rates were possible. I mean, if we want to register the vehicles, we have to respect the laws. But what about the customer? The customer buying a super luxury, super sports car. What is the customer looking for? It's not the mass market strategy. It's not public transportation. It's an independent sector in a way. However, this is a strategic sector that has employed many people. It has created high-end technology and has allowed people to dream. And we are asking all of these things to change, and it's a great risk. We are going to cause many difficulties to the territory, the country, the employers and employees. Competition, think of China. Look at the way in which we employ our people. Italian car makers cannot have the same parameters when comparing the employment levels of China. So since we want to protect our segment, we have been highly committed to respect what is imposed by the regulations. These are V12 engines with a homologation that will last till 2030. And so this technology will allow to have very, very low emissions, notwithstanding the V12 motors. We want to respect the seventh segment that has to be complied with by 2035. Of course, we have seen that even lawmakers have been wondering whether these deadlines were really the right ones. Now we are seeing that the reply is no. However, our customers are looking for emotions, feelings, enjoyment, experiences, and our vehicles with the V12 engine will be supported in making their dream come alive. But of course, we will need to respect what will come in the near future, namely net zero. And so how will we maintain our brand identity? How will we be able to convey those values that are required by customers? This is not something that is only a problem for our luxury cars, but even in the mass market, they have these problems. Mercedes, BMW, etc., do have problems linked to the powertrain. Those who love motorbikes, those who love V6 engines. And so there is a great identity crisis, and it has been forced upon us. And so this is really going to be a great concern when looking into the future. But we will stay open. And already in 2020, when we saw the momentum on electrification, we thought of a project, Utopia, with V12 and with an inverter, electric engines and battery packs. So we've invested 2 years in this research so as to conceive whether a customer wanting an electric vehicle may choose one from our brand. And in this way, we have also researched the possible way of entering the market in case the regulation sets forth mandatory laws that have to be respected. But there was no demand, let me say. We had to limit investment, as has been seen by many car makers who have invested so much in electrification when they have such a wide-ranging production. Our neighbors manufacturing many different car makes, or the German ones, they have to prepare for an uncertain future, investing a lot, and this investing requirements have caused liquidity constraints, less investment in the end will have to be required. So we are smaller, and so we will be leaner if compared to other car makers. Our hope is that lawmakers, Italy especially, will acknowledge Motor Valley and the automotive value of this territory to protect us and the industrial sector of car makers. Because if this technology is lost, it will not be able to recover it. Well, thank you very much for your precious insight, and let's now move on to the second round table.
Now let's listen to those who make vehicles possible, so constructors of technology and components. The leitmotif here is where is the technology battle? I would like to welcome Andrea Dell'Orto from the Lorto company, Nunzio Abate as Senior Director System at STM Microelectronics, Leonardo Goracci, Head of Product at HPE Group, and Dino Brancale, Managing Director at AVL Italy. Welcome everybody and good evening. I would like to start with Mr. Dell'Orto. Dell'Orto is a global player in the car industry with a strong presence in the Indian market. I would like to start with a couple of questions regarding the market. Mr. Dell'Orto, where do market spaces open up for opportunities? According to your experience, since you have an international presence, where do you see the most interesting market opportunities? And the second question for you is, you have developed technologies for motorsports. So to which extent these technologies you develop can impact on the productivity of daily mobility? So on the daily mobility, yes. So let's now take a look at markets and then let's land on technologies. Thank you very much. I will try to be quick because it is so hot here and I know that the level of attention is quite low at this time of the day. Transition is not something for everybody, as it was stressed in Gianluca's presentation. And I think this is a crucial point for us. Dell'Orto has always been known for special elements. In fact, these elements have changed a lot. In motorbikes, we do butterfly system and central unit, and also electric mobility products, so thermal management, powertrain, low voltage powertrain for light urban mobility, including batteries, for example, and also hydrogen system. This means that for us, being a carbon neutral is not only something we ask the European community, it's also a scientific and industrial approach. And we try to be where the market is, where customers are, and where the different applications are developed. And this is why we are very present in India. We decided to work in India because the clients are there. There are many business opportunities in India. India is not the new China. India is a very promising market worldwide, maybe the most promising market worldwide in terms of motorbikes. Last year, 22 million bikes were sold. This is a market characterized by great constructors, big constructors. If we take a look at the top 10 motorbikes constructors, apart from Honda with 20 millions, the second is Hero with 6 millions, and then we have other three Indian players in the top 10. TVS is the fifth in the ranking with 5 millions, Bajaj is sixth, and Royal Enfield is the 10th actor, the 10th player. Everybody thinks about the Chinese manufacturers, but actually we have so many manufacturers in the top 10 ranking. And then Madea only manufactures electric motorbikes or e-bikes. So being in India, working in India is crucial, and we have been there since 2006. Today, the secret is that we have the 20% of the market regarding to the throttle body. The secret is exporting made in Italy, but making everything very, very local, because otherwise you will never be competitive. You have to reason, you have to think like an Indian company. We find it very difficult to work as Italian and Europeans because we are not competitive. In fact, today we are perceived as if we were an Indian company that exports made in Italy product. A further topic is motorsports. We have always been very active in motorsports with niche applications. In fact, we work both in the motorbike, both in the MotoGP, but also in the GT3 with Porsche, Aston Martin, and Ferrari. Motorsport is not just a visibility element, it is also a thermal laboratory. In fact, thanks to motorsports, we can apply certain processing to the products. If you think about software and data collection, we are official supplier in Moto3. Together with Porsche, we have developed a platform of a throttle body, electronic throttle bodies, one per cylinder, very delicate and sensitive devices, and then today they are applied to GT3 and GT4. If you think about GT3 and 4, you realize that last year they made 12,000 vehicles, the whole platform of GT3 and GT4. This is important, and we do all these things by developing a supply chain, provided that it is possible. Last year, we bought a company which deals with engineering. In fact, the Motor Valley now stretches until Brianza in the north of Italy. This happened thanks to a spin-off of Bologna University. This player deals with electronics, and this allowed us to complete part of the product and carrying out a transition not only related to the product but also to the control and the optimization of it, the software related side, because at the end of the day products are just brilliant, they are just excellent, but then they can be true only if they can be reiterated, if they can be reproduced, and only if they work properly. Now, HPE Group has a cross-cutting observatory from the point of view of consulting, engineering, and products. Regarding these multiple technologies transition, what are the most promising one? And the same question for you: where do you see the main efficiencies? Where do you see the main critical points when it comes to develop products? Can engineering be a solution? Maybe through the engineering of certain products, we will be able to solve these multiple technologies challenge. What is your standpoint regarding that, since you are observers? Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. I would like to mention Francesco Perini, a colleague I know. Everybody speaks about a global market, but we know very well that the supply chain logics are local logics. So the first answer is that we are aiming at the internal combustion engine. At the end of the day, our world is made of skills and competencies. The internal combustion engine is going through a transition period, so we decided, in a way, to launch a second transition. So from the project to the product, we decided to work on production lines at tier 1. In a period of great enthusiasm regarding electrification, we have always been attached and close to competencies in the motorsport. We electrified, and I'm very fond of the internal combustion engine. I also love electric powertrains. We had an electrified powertrain, not only in mobility but also in other sectors. I call them advanced systems. By advanced systems, I mean aeronautics, ship, and defense. In electrification, the most important understanding by which I answer to your question is that the business model has changed a bit. It has switched from the development world, a model very focused on the market niche, an automotive sector in which developing times were possible, to what I'm used to call technology to order. So inside ICE technologies and electric technologies, in order to tackle the need of the time to market, very binding to needs. In order to do all these, we decided to use the given technologies. So as far as ICE are concerned, we use the different studies with some F1 systems with single cylinder, Euro 7, Carva. And regarding electrification, we made clear and key decisions. Our market segment can be covered with one rotor technologies. So we have solved the capex thing required by electrification. The third asset, which perfectly answers the challenge, which perfectly meets the challenge of transition, is digitalization. The third asset is digitalization. I think that we perfectly know where AI is needed. We have done calculations, we did data analysis. We can now coordinate products and projects from the hardware point of view and from a software point of view. The challenge ahead of us is related to the hardware software. The mobility market is now much about technology transition, and we are developing software. Now, Mr. Brancale from AVL Italy, you are an engineering company, you work with mobility, you are focused on mobility, not only on powertrains, but also on the development of the entire vehicle. A couple of questions for you. I will ask you two questions at once. To which extent are competencies important in your enterprise, in your firm? What are the most important topics in your company? I can imagine that you needed to develop new technologies, and in order to do so, you need new people, young people. So how important are these things in your reality, in your company, and how can you make the market feel satisfied, such a quick and fast market? Thank you very much, and good evening. This is an ever-changing market, a very quick one. After the hype, after the momentum of the electric cars, we are now back to our previous world, or maybe we are now living again in a more real world, and we can now witness new projects related to internal combustion engines. ICEs are a great heritage, a huge heritage for this nation and for this region. We can witness also so many projects around the world and in our territory. So the world is now back to reality. It means that we can now build ICEs for racing cars, but also creating ICEs for other types of vehicles, not only racing vehicles. In fact, these vehicles can exploit and use the electric platforms that have been developed so far. We can also use technology, we can also use those costs that have been allocated, and in all the electrification evolution and transition. We are now mature, we are now we have now consolidated, and we are back to living in the real world. What about skills and competencies? In the technology neutrality world, we need to develop certain competencies. Some of them have been destroyed. Some others are still there. But today, it is still important to aggregate competencies, to put them together. And I'm saying this as an AVL representative. We have so many technologies available at AVL, but I think that for everybody, it is necessary for everybody to aggregate competencies, strengthening partnerships, so as to count on a 360-degree offer, not only powertrains, but also other topics related to vehicles and cars. And these topics are the ones that must be studied very, very attentively. A company like ours managed to use digital tools, digital technologies based on AI, and all the technologies we have developed, because we also deal with tests and facilities and so on and so forth. Well, today we managed to penetrate and to be active in the facility management industry supported by digital technologies. We are also very active in the renewable energies installations and facilities. We collected millions and millions of euros in projects around the whole country. We also work with A22 motorway for BES technologies. We have an energy management system. And let's say that the ability of our company is that each of us uses our technologies in order to differentiate our technology heritage in different sectors. So infrastructures goes hand in hand with the car sector now, because today a vehicle is not just a vehicle, it is also the whole infrastructure around it. So also the defense sector with 24 billion euros of financing. Well, it goes without saying that all the technologies that we can use can be exploited also in that sector. Thank you very much. Mr. Abate, let's draw the conclusions of this session. Your company deals with electronics. It deals with semiconductors. STM Microelectronics deals with semiconductors, sorry. So they are a leading actor in these productions. Inside mobility, you deal with inverters that were born in the motorsport industry. You are manufacturers of these inverters, so you create an enabling technology. What are the most interesting developments and the latest news inside mobility in your sector? And the further question for you, in order to conclude this roundtable, what is the position, the standpoint of your company, since you have a very important plant in Italy? It was opened 2 years ago. So what is your standpoint and your position in the global run for the semiconductors? Obviously, the global run for semiconductors is a crucial thing, and everybody wants to be first here.
What a long question, and you want a reply in 5 minutes. Well, the reply has been seen in one of the videos that you have shown, and our European factories have been presented in the video. So the Catania factory, we work with digital technology, then with silica carbon, which is used in other plants. So ours is a productive company. We fabricate and develop the technology. So we are fab manufacturers. Mobility requires exclusivity, and automotive racings have opened new markets, new technological leads, and then we were able to have a different production. Gen AI is enlightening as an example. So now, in a world of apps, there is a technological disruption. If we do not have capex, right technologies, you cannot enable a world that is making us get used to a revolution day after day. A European semiconductor, Italo-French manufacturer You have to look into the market 5 years ahead before deciding where to invest the 5 million euro to manufacture and to build the factories. You have to focus on many different aspects, not only the idea of manufacturing electric cars with silica carbide and all the different materials. It has to be ultra dense, ultra compact. So yes, the inverter was the disruption point. We've spoken of BEVs, electric cars, and NEVs, but there's also a world of legacy in the automotive field. There are numerous aspects that need to be driven by power, and so it's another type of technology. We are close to Milan, and we're in Sicily, where we have a wonderful factory in great parts of Italy where we drive innovation. And this new innovation has to be ultra compact, as those who manufacture data centers. You have to manufacture thermal power. We are accredited vendors for NVIDIA, and we are few. And we work on platforms that are 2 or 3 kilowatt on the chips. In the automotive, and I'm saying this to show the difference in paradigm, Tesla manufactured the 48 volts. The car industry was 12 volts. Why? The lamp, the bulb. Now, the bulb was the legacy. Now we have LEDs, and so 48 volts. Wires are shorter, weights reduced, but the electronics and the techno-electronics have been changed. So all of the documentation of 48 volts, investments of millions of dollars, I will apply them everywhere. And behind this technology, we have companies like mine, like ST Microelectronics, so that we can link to a technology, to a design power, which is both analog and digital, and open up at maximum level to continue to invest on the manufacturing and being profitable by selling to the Chinese, for example, or investing in the US because we want to be leaders for car sensors. And so you need to be very strong and powerful. If I am given 1 extra minute, we are speaking of enablers. Problems linked to communications. We have tools, for example, devices that work with 2 nanometers. It's a very, very tiny number, but the Moore's law said that they were going to be doubled. So if we want to manufacture with nanometry or photometry, what should we do? We have to apply physics to electronics. You have to talk to universities, academia, startups, because this is where we can get the knowledge, the competence. That is what is becoming more important. If you have no competences, it's useless to have factories. If you don't study, if you don't research, with the help of those who are competent, we will have no chances in terms of competing with the Chinese and with nobody else. And that was it. Thank you very much to all of the panelists of this round table. And now let's open the last round table, the one devoted to alternative energy. So renewables, hydrogen, nuclear power. So let's hear from the various panelists what we may expect from the near future. Natalia Pierozzi, Open Innovation Apps Director of RINA. Enrico Piraccini, responsible of innovation for the Hero Group, and Gianpaolo Sibilia, European Director Operation for Nuvera Fuel Cells. So I know that I am inviting you to maintain our time constraints. It's not just up to engineering or technology for all of these vehicles, heavy duty, light duty, city cars, farming vehicles, etc., but also the cost of energy. So you represent an authority for strategic consultancy on energy transition, a multi-utility group, and fuel cells. So three different players, but you all play in the same field. So RINA is a strategic operator in terms of energy transition. You offer certifications, but you also go beyond. How do you imagine mobility from here to 2030? Setting this deadline, since it will represent a critical moment in time, as we've heard from many companies like Pagani, for example. Such a rapidly evolving world which doesn't allow us to forecast what will happen in the next years. What will the primary technologies that we will use on vehicles in the near future? And second question, in energy generation, what will the most interesting technologies be from here to 10 years? So your analysis for energy and for technology. So before entering and going into the future, let's look at what happened in the last 5 years. In 2020, electric cars globally were sold at a 5% level, and 2025 we're up to 25%. So in 2025, one car out of four was an electric vehicle. These are data coming from the Energy Authority organization in the global outlook of electric cars. So we can say that electric cars are no longer an emerging technology, but an industrial reality. So we should not wonder about the dominating technology, but how much time will it take us, and with which geographical features will this occur? ILEA again gives us an answer and informs us that by 2035 in China, 90% of cars will be EVs. And also an estimate is offered for Europe. By 2035, electric cars will account to 80%. And this is linked to the fact that the scenario envisaged by ILEA, the authority, focuses especially on the laws that will be passed. So everything shows that EVs are energy driven and regulation driven, because there are very rigid targets that have been set on emissions that have required this transformation. We have seen in last year's automotive package an opening on behalf of EU. We will no longer have the hard stop in 2035 of ICEs. And I believe that this represents an important change. By 2035, we will no longer have a target that is up to 100%, so net zero emissions at 90%. This means that the remaining 10% will be compensated with biofuels or synthetic fuels. So we will continue to open up to ICEs, but with lower emission engines, or shift to green steel, stainless steel. For the first time, we see a link along the supply chain. So we will not only measure emissions at the exhaust pipe, but along the whole supply chain across it. And this is a result of a serious reasoning of policymakers, considering not the sector, but the integrated aspect. Of course, we will see that the energy crisis will speed up or slow down. And even the crisis, the volatility of oil prices, the war, goes in the direction of fostering electric vehicles. We want to go away from oil because, of course, it is a source of many, many different problems. So now, giving to a reply to your second question, well, we cannot just think about the vehicle. The vehicle belongs to a wider ranging scenario, and electrification will burden the energy power network, which is not ready to deliver these high requirements, because there are data centers, there is AI, there are many, many other industries that will require more energy, far more than the electric vehicles. So we have to generate a lot of new clean energy. We have to transport it and also manage the stability of the network with all of these new requirements. How will we achieve that? Well, thanks to PV, very cheap, and also wind power, wind farms offshores will support us. So we'll need to store energy again, and nuclear power will become a new ally of renewable, because it is stable and it is revolving around fission, not nuclear fusion. So smaller modules, advanced modules, and by 2050 we will already have probably some pilots. So biomass will not be scalable because it competes with food production. And so we will also have different types of fuels and hydrogen. So a future that is more technological and digital. Thank you very much, Natalia. Let me go to ask Giampaolo Sibilia of Nuvera Fuel Cells the question on hydrogen. Green hydrogen is really what we need so as to generate a sustainable fuel, biofuel, and green fuel, and especially in Italy. So, realistically speaking, what is the way ahead and also the timeline? What are the main bottlenecks? And what do you consider the potential future of fuel cells? So let me start by replying to your second question. According to what has already been said, fuel cells beyond hydrogen are quite expensive. So they will compete with legacy technologies like diesel, but also with batteries. BEV is cheaper We have seen the Chinese one for 1,900 euros. So it's unthinkable to make an EV with a fuel cell. So we want to concentrate our attention on other applications that cannot be achieved with batteries. So high power, high energy requirements that are going to be leveraged non-stop. So not just using your car for, going to work and driving home. For most part of the time, the car will be parked. So this is not the reality of trucks or delivery trucks. So for the time being, to see how to reduce costs, we are investing in this type of applications. We manufacture trucks, forklifts, especially when downloading cargo from ships, etc. And we need to drive these forklift trucks with these fuel cell batteries, farming machines, and then data centers. We have received many requests of different type for data centers. They require high loads of energy. I believe that the most sophisticated models must be autonomous by 72 hours, which is a huge amount of time, and it's very complicated to achieve that with batteries. Then the naval industry, some projects funded by the EU think of using these batteries, which will not be fuel cells, but will be with hydrogen, with methanol or ammonia. So high power, high energy, and ongoing use. This are the pilot studies that we are now devoting our attention to. And then once these will be scalable, we will also study these possibilities for cars. And then there is also the defense, the military sector, and submarines that can stay submerged for a week with the fuel cells. Not many numbers, but it is a technology that is used. Now, going back to hydrogen, non-green hydrogen is very expensive, even if there are no excises levied on it, not only to generate it, but also to transport it. It's a gas. To transport it from the production site to where it is used, they are now funding hydrogen valleys, so closed ecosystems where hydrogen is generated and used. So it's like a port, a haven. We manufacture forklifts for ships in a port. They can manufacture these things, and some barges can be manufactured where they can manufacture hydrogen. Then there are different projects for distribution centers where trucks can be able to have their fuel. What about you, Mr. Pieraccini? What is the strategy for the next coming years, and what is the infrastructure you have in mind in terms of charging stations? How are you growing in this sense, and how do you integrate all this with the energy, high consumption energy peaks? Well, thank you for the question, and I will try my best to say many interesting things for the few people who have remained in the room. So with our 100 years of history that have seen the foundation of the first gas industries, and that have seen the emergence of different energy companies. These appear as novelties, but we have already outlived three. The first transition was from wood to coal, so the trains and the steam machines, etc., the engine was external. Then internal combustion engine, and this has enabled the use of oil. From coal shift to oil. Then the oil crisis occurred, and we shifted from oil to methane from the 60s on with gas pipelines, and 60% of our revenues come from the sale of gas. So it's very interesting to study energy transition. And now the last transition that we've experienced. So what have we learned? That no transition will phase out the previous ones. So when I read articles or I talk to car makers, I see panic, but nobody tries to understand the market. I was not in line with what Bain declared. 30% of electric cars, 60% of ICEs, but this has occurred in 10 years. So I believe that technology that achieves these numbers in 10 years is quite scary. Now, households, for example, they had methane boilers or heaters. Do you have your home that is heated with gas? No, you generate your own PV energy with heat pumps or PV, photovoltaic energy. So we cannot stop our changing world. So if the world of mechanics wants to oppose the transition, well, they will get hurt and wounded. There will be many cars that will use ICE oil. You can't be rigid in this situation. So in the present and future scenario, I joked with my CEO and I said, we are beyond the turning point. All these processes are inefficient. An electric motor is far more efficient than an ICE. Of course, you have to power it with batteries or hydrogen, of course. But for an engineer, an electric motor is, wow, something great. It never breaks down. So we have to move and go in this direction and design action plans. Which ones have we developed? Next month, we will close three very important projects funded by the National Plan for Recovery and Resilience. One in Modena to power the Modena buses that have fuel cells. There is a very short video if you look for up Hydrogen Valley Modena, and this project is displayed, is presented. We have reclaimed a waste dump, and we have set up our factory there. Then we have studied an energy park. So PV parks within the urban forest plan. It was highly loved by the public administrations we've offered it to. The first one will be closed next month. If you look up, there is a video on YouTube. It's just 2 minutes long. And on Faenza, 40% of electric or power costs will be decarbonized. And in Faenza, they will have the public network generating recycled energy. The third model is the one with Orogel. You see a company that allows for decarbonization to occur thanks to collecting. Orogel is a company that manufactures frozen products, and their fridges will be powered by a special plant, and we will no longer be connected to the electric grid and pay the costs, but we have our own electro pipeline.
And this is the latest news because tomorrow we are going to sign this convention. We are going to create an energy park for Bologna, for the city of Bologna. You may find a 2-minute video on the internet. We will do a 14 megawatts facility, so quite a big one. It will power the quantum computers that are present in the Tecnopolo in Ravenna. So the best in class quantum computers. So 3 lines, one dedicated to transportations, one dedicated to cities, and one dedicated to companies. Thank you very much. I would like to thank our distinguished guests, Natalia Perozzi from RIN, Enrico Pieraccini from ERA, and Giampaolo Sibiglia from Novera Full Sales. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave you with this quotation: "The destiny goes with those who follow it, and it opposes to those who oppose it." Thank you.